This is the Man Up Podcast, the doctor's guide to men's health. Each week on our podcast, we interview the top specialists of the field on various topics in men's health. You have questions that you are too afraid to ask? We have the answers. This week, our episode is titled, An Eye-Opening Discussion About the Eye. I'm Dr. Kevin Chu, and I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dr. Justin Dubin. What's up, Justin?
Kevin, how are you? Good to talk to you as always. I'm really excited to be discussing the eye today.
Yeah, me too.
You know, funny thing about the eye, we see a lot of gross stuff, but I think gross eye stuff is by far the grossest thing. Like when your eye has a problem, it's disgusting.
I agree. And, it's some people say we do surgeries in the genital areas. I've watched surgeries in the eye and I cannot get past a few seconds of it. It just bothers the crap out of me.
It creeps me out.
Yeah.
It makes me
cringe, right? Yeah.
So very cringe. So I am very excited to bring on my old roommate, one of my best friends here, Dr. Greg Budoff. He's a second-year surgical vitro-retinal fellow at Jules Stein at UCLA. He's doing some excellent stuff over there. He is, a specialist of the eye. Thanks, Greg, for coming on, or Dr. Budoff, as I should say.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to be here. And Kevin, I got to say, you got a great intro podcast voice.
Oh, thank you.
He does, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's got a really good voice for it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Well, let's jump in, Dr. Budoff. Let's jump in, all right? So I think it's important to distinguish between what an ophthalmologist is, which is what you are, versus an optometrist. Can you explain the difference to us?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think pretty much nobody knows the answer to it except ophthalmologists. There's also opticians out there, and I don't know if they actually know the difference. But basically, ophthalmologists are medical doctors. We go to medical school, and then we do residency and potentially fellowship afterwards if you want. We manage all eye problems, medical, surgical, or vision or glasses related. There's optometrists, and they go to 4 years of optometry school, and then some of them do a 1 or 2 year residency or fellowship thereafter. And they manage a lot of medical problems with the eye, and they're especially good at managing problems with vision. So if you want glasses, they're definitely the person to go see. You don't want me to refract you or prescribe you contact lenses or anything like that. But optometrists can't perform laser or surgeries in most states. I think in a couple states they do have that ability now. And then opticians are the people that actually make the glasses that the ophthalmologists or the optometrists prescribe.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you obviously work very closely with optometrists and as an ophthalmologist, right? So, if I need contacts, I shouldn't be trying to make a schedule with an ophthalmologist. I should be seeing my optometrist, but I should, because the fact that I need glasses and things like that, I should probably see an ophthalmologist to get my eyes checked annually for other problems. Is that correct? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I think for most people, without really any eye problems or medical problems, they'd be fine to see an optometrist to just get checked out and see if there's anything wrong. You in particular, you're a high myope, so
right.
You should definitely see an ophthalmologist and even a retina specialist to make sure you don't have any issues associated with your retina. But for most people not named Justin Dubin, I think an optometrist would more than get the job done.
Wait, so Dr. Booth, let me just make sure. So, I get my eyes checked. I think now the prescriptions last for 2 years. So I get them rechecked every 2 years. Do you think I should be seeing an ophthalmologist though? Because I have -4, -5. Should I be getting my eyes checked a little bit more with an ophthalmologist?
I think that as long as you're getting your eyes checked,
okay,
getting your eyes dilated,
yeah.
That's fine. An optometrist can easily pick up problems with your retina. Sometimes they'll take what's called an optos picture or a wide field fundus photograph showing you all of your retina, and sometimes they'll get an OCT, which is kind of like a cross sectional cut looking at all the layers of your retina.
Okay.
And as long as somebody's looking at that, if there was a problem, they would refer you in the right place.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
I don't think you necessarily need to see an ophthalmologist. That being said, if you wanted to, there's no harm in it. It's definitely, if you're a high myope like Justin, you're like -8 or -10 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty high.
High.
Well, so that kind of, so obviously you're saying like me as a high myop, I see an ophthalmologist at least once a year. Who are the other people that should be seeing an ophthalmologist? You're saying, Kevin doesn't necessarily need to, but what are some risk factors or certain kinds of people who should see an ophthalmologist annually? Obviously you mentioned the high myop, people with the higher prescription. But who else? So,
I mean, that's a very general question, and we can try to break it down. I mean, for eye-specific things, if you have it, are you talking about in general? Like
if I'm just like someone on the street and I'm like, I haven't been to the eye doctor, do I ever need to go to the eye doctor? Obviously, if you have like eye-specific problems, you're going to go to the eye doctor. But who are people who should kind of like consider seeing an eye doctor who've like never seen one?
So, first of all, I would say somebody with diabetes. Diabetes can absolutely destroy your eye and your retina.
It can also destroy your penis.
Exactly. All these microvascular complications.
Right,
so
right.
somebody with
Exactly.
diabetes then should get their eyes checked at least every year, at least. But a lot of people with more severe diabetes, probably even more frequent than that. I think that younger people, probably under the age of 50, should get their eyes checked every few years. Mm-hmm. And then once you're 60 or 65, probably every year. A lot of eye conditions are more common with age. Things like glaucoma, which is a disease of the optic nerve, totally asymptomatic in its early stages, and even various forms of macular degeneration are asymptomatic early on. And if you're older, you should be evaluated for these things. So I would say everybody over the age of 60 or so should get checked every year. People with diabetes should get checked at least yearly.
All right.
What about like a history of high blood pressure, stroke, heart attacks, anyone like that?
So I wouldn't say necessarily if you have a history of a stroke or a heart attack, you need to get your eyes checked out. I mean, if you were to look in somebody's eyes, those people's eyes, you'd probably see signs of high blood pressure. But just a chronic hypertension, there's not much that we do other than say, control your blood pressure. Now, I mean, that's being general. There are specific times when blood pressure can itself cause active acute issues in the eyes that we need to intervene into. But generally, I would say no. That being said, somebody who has a stroke and has a heart attack tends to be older and should probably be getting their eyes checked.
Right. Makes sense.
I guess if if it ever crosses your mind that, hey, something might be causing my eyes to be bad, you probably should get it checked out, right? I'm thinking, So
there are a lot of serious issues that, are relatively urgent or even emergent with your eyes. And if someone doesn't feel right, I would say, go to see somebody to get it checked out. Don't just let it be.
All right. So let's bring it down to a really like basic level. So what is something that most people do in just like for eye care? Like I don't even really know what I do for eye care, but
what should we do? What are we doing wrong? Like, what's going on here with eyes?
I mean, most people, I don't really do much for eye care, right? I mean, they're your eyes. I put my glasses on every day. If you wear contacts, I would say you need to wash your hands before you're putting them in, wash your hands before you're taking them out, cleaning your case if you don't have dailies, not wearing them longer than you're supposed to be. If you have monthlies, throw them out after a month. If you have dailies, put a new pair in the next morning. Most importantly, don't sleep in them. I think, go out, wear your contacts during the day if you want, but when you get home, take them out, give your eyes a rest. Wearing your contacts too much can cause a whole bunch of issues. And so that's one thing I would say, just, wear your contacts properly. A lot of people have dry eye, And for them, managing, taking care of your eyes is a little bit more important. So for them, you can use artificial tears. They're over the counter. You can use them a few times a day whenever your eyes feel uncomfortable. But you can also do things like warm compresses, so a paper towel or a washcloth, putting some hot water on it, closing your eyelids, and then just putting that over your eyelids for a few minutes, a few times a day can make we call them the meibomian glands in your eyelids just a little bit more regular, and those glands can make your tears more normal. The other thing, sometimes people will have what's called blepharitis, which is essentially dandruff of your eyelashes.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And
no Head and Shoulders for that?
want some baby shampoo. You just scrub your lashes when you're showering or when you're washing your face at the end of the night, and that again makes the glands in your eyelids a little bit more normal and makes your tears more normal. So let's get back to the eye drops for a second. I feel like people, almost like chapstick for people, I feel like people abuse the hell out of that. Like they use Visine. I see people like dropping 1 million times of Visine, and like you mentioned artificial tears. Is there a difference? Like, do the Visine things actually work? Like, is there any specific brand that you recommend? Stuff like that. So, when you say, does the Visine thing actually work?
I don't know. Like for like irritating eye, does it actually alleviate that?
I wouldn't say Visine. I wouldn't recommend Visine if your eye is irritating. Visine is when your eye is red, and you want to treat the symptom of the redness. Then you put that in. But I wouldn't recommend that because your eyes are red for a reason, right? And if you're putting Visine in, then you're kind of not figuring out that reason. You're just constricting the small blood vessels in your conjunctiva, or the outside of your eye. But they do it. It works, but I just wouldn't recommend it because there's an underlying issue at stake. But in terms of artificial tears for dry eye, they work. It's not something you can. There's preservatives in those things, and you can't put them in unlimited times a day because your eyes will get angry and they won't like that. So they do have.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that. That's good to know. So wait, is there like a time limit or like too many drops or anything like that? Or
honestly, I don't know how long you can have a bottle of artificial tears, before you need to reuse it. But I would say every month. Okay. You can get a new bottle. But if you have, they do make preservative-free artificial tears. Oh. And those you're supposed to. It's these like single-use vials. Okay. And you can use it as many times a day as you want. They're not gonna. There's no preservatives. So they're not going to irritate your eye. But they do lubricate your eye. Yes.
So is there, if you have an irritated eye, is there an eye drop that's going to help the irritation? Unless if it's not a dry eye.
Well, I mean, it depends on what's causing the irritation.
Right. I get you. Like steroids and stuff like that. Yeah. I got you. All right. That makes sense.
And dry eye is not helping, I would say that's an indication to go see an eye doctor. Whether
there we go.
All right, but for our listeners, if you got red eyes, the Visine works, but just to treat that.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that Visine.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. He's not a Visine guy. Okay, we have.
There's also like, if you use too much Visine, your eyes are going to get used to it, and then when you're not using Visine, they're just going to be bright red tomatoes.
Oh,
so there you go.
You can essentially get addicted to Visine that way.
So there you go. See, it's like the chapstick thing. So, we're going to start doing some other questions kind of like this. Like, we are looking at you. We're looking at a screen. I look at my phone all the time. Kevin's always looking at his phone. We're watching TV.
We're looking at screens all day.
Is this messing up our eyes? Yeah. Is this messing up our eyes? Are we looking at as the screen time compromising our vision in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, when we look at screens, we blink less, which causes dry eye. So
we're back to dry eyes.
It's the bane of our existence, and that's why I don't want to deal with dry eye. But anyway, being on screens, essentially makes dry eye worse.
Okay.
We blink less, so our tears evaporate more. They're just drier, and it can be really, really bothersome to people. So I always recommend when people complain of this, actively blink more or use some artificial tears, and I recommend warm compresses and maybe lid scrubs with baby shampoo. But those are that's in like adults, right? I think there's some evidence in children that being on screens too much, especially like up here this close,
like the iPads and stuff like that.
Exactly, it can lead to increased degrees of myopia or nearsightedness. So you were probably on screens a lot as a kid.
What do you mean? I just have myopia, man. There's screens, 34 years old. We didn't have that many screens. I did sit very close to the TV, though. I did sit very close.
Sure, yeah. The other thing I would say about screens and near work in general is a lot of people have undiagnosed, especially kids, have undiagnosed what's called hyperopia or farsightedness. It's like the opposite of being nearsighted. When you're younger, your lens can change shape and it can change power. So if you think about a camera, a lot of times it'll be in focus at one focal length.
Right, one depth.
Right, one depth, exactly. And before we had iPhones that had autofocus and whatnot, you'd have to
adjust it.
Turn
right.
So our eyes, and when we're younger, our eyes do that naturally. The lens changes shape to get the image in focus. And so when you are farsighted, your eye can, as I said, change shape to make things closer up appear in focus. But it's a muscle that's doing it. It's called the ciliary body, and it's a muscle. And so when you get eye strain because you're reading up close too much, it's because that muscle, you're just feeling that muscle getting fatigued. So I would say it can cause eye strain, and it can cause dry eye.
Wait, so the eye strain affects all ages, right? All ages?
As you get older, you have less of an ability. That muscle just loses its ability to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we're living in a metaverse, I'm just like imagining these VR headsets, and we're literally watching the screen like right in front of our eyes. Might be good for your business, Dr. Budoff. I'm not going to lie.
This is going to be great for dry eye. This is going to be, your whole business is going to be dry eye.
I'm sure one day you'll be able to put those screens on and those VR headsets, and they'll be able to do LASIK right there.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
You'll just put on contacts, which are actually VR.
Ah,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I just came up with that one. That's the way of the future right there. Someone's going to steal that from this podcast, maybe. I don't know. So, that is really interesting. And then that kind of leads us to the next question, not the metaverse, obviously, but, we see a lot of these glasses being pitched online or on TV, these blue lens glasses, like I think they're called blue lens. They're supposed to block some filtered light from your screens.
Yeah, wavelength of light or something like that, right? Something.
I don't understand it. Yeah. And do they work? Are they real? Is it BS? Are people just taking our money with that?
I mean, I'm sure they work in terms of filtering out the blue light and letting everything else out in. But I guess what your question really is blue light harmful to you?
That's a great point. Yeah.
I don't think there's any evidence that it is. So I think this is all just, trying to sell you something. That being said, blue light can affect your circadian rhythms. And so that's why, night mode exists on your phone, for example. It'll
that's a good point.
Go to sleep earlier. Or so you're not tricking your body into staying up later.
It doesn't work for Justin.
And that's kind of
no.
That's one of the reasons that when you are jet lagged, we say just go outside because you're out in the sun and you're getting all that blue light and it's kind of revamping your circadian rhythms.
Interesting.
Wait, so that makes you so basically that's why if you have a sleeping problem and you're on your phone, you should probably stop looking at your phone before you go to bed because that blue light is keeping you awake. It's like absorbing into your brain.
Exactly.
So then you're saying if I use the blue glasses and then I go to bed, I can still continue. I can continue to look at my phone.
This
not feel
episode
the
is
effects of
brought to
staying.
you by the blue light. Just kidding.
All right, I'm just finding loopholes. I'm just finding loopholes here.
Or just turn on the night mode on your phone. Yeah.
Or just turn on the night mode. So yeah, it's a much cheaper move to just turn on the night mode for sure.
Wait, on the topic of glasses, all right, glasses. So reading glasses. Why do many people require reading glasses as we get older? Like, is this a
Kevin's getting old? He's going to start needing it.
Reading glasses,
So, this brings us back to what I was saying earlier. When you're younger, your eye can change shape, and you can see at distance and focus, or you can see at close and focus. As you get older, and your eye kind of just becomes more or less in focus just at distance, you need glasses to put everything, and because your eye can't change shape to see and focus up close, you need glasses to give your eye more power. So it just relates to the inability for the eye to change.
It can't focus as you get older. And so anything over the counter, the glasses work, right? They're fine as long as they help you. There's nothing a problem.
I always recommend patients if they so the proper term for that is called presbyopia, the inability to see up close as you get older. Whenever I have a presbyopic patient, I just tell them to go get over the counter reading glasses. And, a lot of times they'll want an actual prescription, usually for insurance reasons. So the insurance company will pay for the glasses. But no, those the over-the-counter glasses you see in the supermarket or CVS or whatever they have power in those lenses. They do the same thing as a prescription would do.
Oh, all right, cool. Well, kind of going back to this vision, this idea of vision, you alluded before, I'm a high myope. And people with high myopia have a potential risk for things like retinal detachments, things like that. And other people have a risk for retinal detachments. And that's one of the significant medical emergencies in your field. Now, can you just explain what a retinal detachment is? And obviously what the signs of having a retinal detachment could be, if you to recognize for people listening what they may be experiencing if they get one.
Sure. So, as you know, I'm a retina specialist, and so this is what I enjoy talking about. But before I explain what a retinal detachment is, you need to know what the retina is.
Right.
And so
that's a good point.
If you think about your eye as a camera, the retina is the film of the eye. The whole purpose of the eye is to focus light onto the retina, because that's where the photoreceptors are, and that's where the light's converted into a signal for your brain. So the retina partially gets its blood supply from the wall of the eye. There's a layer of blood vessels underneath the retina called the choroid, and they supply the retina with nutrients and whatnot. And so the retina needs to be in that right spot to function. But it also needs to be in that spot because that's where the eye is focusing it onto. And so if the retina is in a different part of the eye, if the retina is detached from the wall of the eye.
If it rips off, basically.
Right. A, it's not getting nutrients, and B, it's the light isn't being focused onto it because the light is being focused on where the retina should have been. So basically, a retinal detachment is when the retina is detached from the wall of the eye. And there's a bunch of different types of retinal detachments. The classic retinal detachment that we talk about that's typically preceded by flashing lights and floaters, and then you see a shadow in the periphery of your vision or a curtain.
It's like the curtain, right? That's what we're taught, at least, me and Justin in med school, right?
In general med school
That's
stuff.
all we remember from related to the eye. The curtain.
People like me who do this every day. But yeah, so flashing lights, floaters, and then a curtain. Those are the classic signs of retinal detachment. If you have those, you should definitely get seen by an ophthalmologist and maybe a retina specialist.
Emergently, though, right? This is like an emergency.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a curtain, definitely. If you have flashing lights and floaters, I would say within a day or two. Don't let that be. But basically, the way it works is everybody has gel in their eye. We call it vitreous, And when you're younger, the vitreous gel is attached to the retina. But as you get older, it starts to pull away from the retina. And sometimes it can pull really hard and rip the retina. And then when there's a hole in the retina, some of that liquid within that vitreous gel can get through the retina under it and then just dissect it away from the wall of the eye.
Makes sense.
Now, the reason you are at more risk for it is because when you're highly myopic, your retina is thinner and it's more prone to tear.
Great.
So wait, so
yeah, that's fun.
So if you don't get this taken care of, what happens? Like,
yeah,
assuming
good
bad
question.
stuff, right? Bad stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the longer you wait to repair a retinal detachment, the worse vision is going to be.
Okay.
In a retinal detachment, we essentially want to know if the macula, which is the central part of the retina, and that's where all your central vision comes from. We want to know if the macula is attached, because if it's attached, then it's is more or less one of the biggest emergencies within ophthalmology, and it's something that should be repaired within a day. If the macula is detached, it's less emergent, but it's something that should be repaired within a week or so. The sooner the better, though. If you don't get it repaired, you're not going to see well. But more importantly, the whole eye could start to scar up the what's called the retinal pigmented epithelium, which is under the eye. It has essentially a vacuum pump. It's got a bunch of I forget what the specific pumps
Don't worry
are.
about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it sucks fluid out, and so it keeps that potential space between the retina and the retinal pigmented epithelium dry. And that's one of the ways that the retina stays attached to the wall of the eye, is through that vacuum pump. But when the retina is detached and the retinal pigmented epithelium, the RPE as we call it, is exposed to the vitreous gel, it just keeps pumping and pumping, and then the eye gets the pressure in the eye gets low, and when the eye doesn't like low pressure, when the pressure is too low in the eye, things malfunction, and eventually
bad stuff. Bad stuff. So
bad stuff. So bad stuff.
So you see floaters, you see flashing lights, you see curtains. You gotta go see the eye doc. You gotta go.
Gotta go see the eye doctor. Gotcha.
Exactly.
So
now there's another thing. Yeah, go ahead, Kev. Go ahead.
Another thing. Right. No. So retinal detachment, right? The other thing are cataracts, right? Other common thing that we talk about with eyes. How common are they, and how do we recognize if I have?
So a cataract is just what we use to describe the aging process within your natural lens. As your lens gets a little bit cloudy as you get older, it's called a cataract. The question is whether or not it's visually significant, and that's something that only you can tell, right? So if the cataract is affecting your vision, then it's worth having surgery to take.
What does it look like though? How do I know if it's we talked about a curtain going down for a detachment. What does a cataract's vision look like?
So there's different types of cataracts.
In general.
Sure.
Am I seeing like a blurry thing?
Things like glare when you are driving in the sun, or driving at night and have an incoming car headlights hitting you. If that causes a lot of glare more than it does to other people, then that's a sign that you might have cataracts. If sometimes your vision will be blurry. Sometimes you won't know. Sometimes it could lead to a change in your prescription, but there's not really a telltale sign of a cataract that a person would be aware of. And it's one of the reasons that as you get older, it's more important to get your eyes checked.
And so at what age? Like probably around 50. That's why you're saying around 50 years old, you should start getting your eyes checked, just because this is one of those things, right, that you can definitely catch.
Exactly. And cataract surgery is easy. It's quick, it's safe. And it's not only going to make your vision better, but there's a lot of recent evidence that it can actually improve or prevent dementia.
Interesting. I did not know that. So that's pretty cool. So another reason to see your ophthalmologist. Prevent dementia. Potentially.
Potentially.
There's some data. Potentially. Yeah, so that's awesome. Now, we did mention glasses, and I just do want to talk about contacts for a little bit. You know, I wear them.
Me too.
And I used to do, Kevin does too. I used to do them where I would wear them for like a month, but I would take them out at night. They were usable. Kevin, but now I use dailies. Kevin, what kind do you use?
I use monthlies, but that's because I got like astigmatism in one eye. So I don't know.
I have astigmatism in both eyes, but
you get dailies? I'm very
I do dailies. It's much better. Like you sleep in them, or you're not supposed to.
No. I take mine out.
No. Never sleep in them. Okay,
that was like a college thing. Like you just...
yeah. So how important? Because I remember, when I had the monthlies, I would, because they were expensive, I would make those things last like 3 months sometimes.
Yeah.
The dailies, you don't have that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how important is it to not do that and to not overuse your contacts? I have no idea. Like for the dailies, I'm sure people are using them like 3-4 days in a row because they can get pricey. Why is it important to not do that?
So, I mean, with anything, the more you use it, the dirtier it gets, the more wear and tear it gets. We've all had, I'm sure, experiences where you're wearing your contacts for longer than you should, and it starts to hurt. And that's because the lens, there's like little micro tears or rips within it, so the edges aren't smooth. So it's just irritating your eye. But there, could be bacteria growing on that, and when it irritates the surface of your cornea, the corneal epithelium, bacteria just get exposed to the stroma of your cornea, and they can cause what's called a corneal ulcer.
Ooh.
And you don't want that.
Corneal
How
ulcer.
often do you see that? A decent amount?
I mean, when I was in residency, now that I do retina, I don't see it too frequently. Yeah. When I was in residency, I mean, every day or two, somebody would come in with the corneal ulcer.
Oh, man.
And that's the risk factors from contact use, right? Just contacts and just
that's the biggest risk factor. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's I wouldn't say it's preventable, but you can greatly reduce the risk by doing things like, washing your hands, not sleeping in your contacts, not wearing your contacts longer than you should. But even if you've been wearing a pair of monthlies for 2 weeks and it starts to really hurt your eye, there's probably a little scratch on it or something.
Okay.
So just start over with a new pair.
Gotcha. Now, I'm sure this has happened to, our listeners who wear contacts. Sometimes, it kind of like gets out of place. You're not at home and you got to take it out and make an adjustment, but it comes out. You got to put it back in your eye. Is there a way to clean it? Do you, I don't know, sink water?
Wash it under the sink or because I've seen some gross stuff, man. Yeah. I've seen sink water. I've seen people use spit. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I've never done that. Full disclosure, I would tell you, I've never done that. I just throw it away and just live with one eye.
I would certainly not recommend spitting on your contact. I wouldn't recommend putting it in sink water.
Really? Not even sink water, right? Because there's bacteria potentially, I'm guessing.
Exactly. I would say, get some contact lens solution, put it in. Or just, get it in your eye and let your tears do their thing. Even if you have artificial tears available, you can use
Interesting.
That. Importantly, wash your hands before you, take that display out of your eye and before you're putting it in your eye.
That's probably the more important information.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, I feel like that, although that's common sense, I think people are just like, it's fine. But clearly it's not. It's not. And then, unless you want to see some gross stuff going on in your eye.
Exactly. You do not want a corneal ulcer. It can lead to an infection in your eye, or it can just lead to, even if you catch it or have it treated before that happens, it can once it heals, it can lead to a scar, and your cornea is like the window into your eye. It's like a windshield, and if we've all had big scratches on our windshield or snow on our windshield, you can't see. And so you want to prevent a corneal ulcer because it's just going to lead to a whole bunch of problems that, could require surgery to fix.
Yeah.
Well, so for our listeners, take contacts seriously, use them only for the time that you have them for, and wash your hands. I think that's very important.
Yeah. I mean, now going to bad vision, following up on that, this is like, I can never forget this one. When I was a delivery boy in New Jersey, there was a girl who ate so many carrots. She just ate a lot of carrots, and she would always say, it's good for your vision. There's this old wives' tale, that eating carrots can help improve your vision, or it's good for your eyes. Is that true? Can I don't think it's going to make my contacts better, or like my prescription better, but is it true that like eating carrots is good for your eyes, good for your vision?
So before I get to that, how did this come about when you were a delivery boy in New Jersey?
She was I just remember like, I just could not, I was blown away by how many carrots this girl was eating, like all the time. Like she was one of the register girls, and she would just come in every day with like a 2-pound thing of carrots. And I'd be like, what are you doing? She's like, I love carrots. My parents say they're good for your eyes. So like, I'm going to eat all these carrots. And I'll never forget it. I've never seen anyone eat that many carrots on a regular basis. Does she have better vision?
I mean, she knew probably, but probably not. So, carrots, along with a bunch of other vegetables, contain vitamin A, which is, important for a bunch of things in your body. But one of the things that helps your retina see light. It's important in the visual pathway. But in America, vitamin A deficiency is really rare. We're fortunate to have a good supply of healthy foods available for us to consume. And so because of that, most people in America do not have vitamin A deficiency. And because of that, I wouldn't recommend eating a ton of carrots. If you enjoy them, do it. It's not going to hurt you. But it's just for you if you're not vitamin A deficient. And, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I was actually reading an article today in a big Retina journal about carrots and how they're thought of as being great for your eyes. And it goes back to World War II, actually.
Really?
Yeah, Britain apparently imports like 70% of their food. And
it's an island. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Right. And, in a relatively cold one at that. And the Germans, knew this, and they somehow had like an embargo on them. So they couldn't bring in food. One of the things they could do was grow carrots. And so the British government went on this whole campaign talking about the benefits of carrots. And one of them was that they're good for your eyes.
That's amazing. That's so interesting.
Yeah, and that's just prevailed in culture, and it's not incorrect. It's just not completely true. It's right. It's just that you don't necessarily need too many carrots.
Right. It's basically, if you're deficient, it's a problem. But if you have a normal level of vitamin A, you're fine.
Right.
And so vitamin A is the main one for the eye, right? Like if you're deficient, none of the other vitamins or anything else, or?
I mean,
it's always good to have balanced vitamins. I'm assuming for everything,
right.
But A is like the main one, though, right? Probably.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So look. Dude,
that was
Dr.
interesting.
Budoff, you've covered a bunch of great stuff, very interesting stuff. Anything else you think our listeners should know that we haven't mentioned about the eye?
I mean, the biggest thing I would say is just, if you're having eye problems, get them checked out. And a lot of times it's hard to find an eye doctor. So if you go to your primary care doctor, they can, refer you to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist or, whatever kind of specialist within ophthalmology. But, most people do not know anything about the eyes, and unless you see an eye doctor, you're not going to get it figured out. So don't be afraid. Go see an eye doctor if you have any issues.
I think that's a great way to end it, because it's true, right? Like, I think just almost like urologists, a lot of people could go see a urologist and they don't. And I think a lot of guys definitely don't take care of their eyes. And, a lot of the stuff that you talked about today is preventative, right? Like a lot of the things you can do at home in doing things well, it starts somewhere, right? If you talk even to an optometrist, it doesn't have to be an ophthalmologist. I'm sure they can educate you on proper contact care, proper eye care, proper glasses care. And if they need to refer you to an ophthalmologist, then they can refer you. If you go see your primary care doctor and bring up your vision, that's other things, right? It's important to be aware of things like diabetes, potentially high blood pressure, obesity, which can lead to diabetes. These are all problems that can, to some degree, eventually, affect your eye, older age, like you said. So, there's a lot of things to consider for the eye, and people probably are not going enough. So I think that was really a great way to summarize it here. So let's end it on that note. I want to really thank Greg Budoff, Dr. Greg Budoff, old roommate, great friend, for coming on today and talking with Kevin and I. As always, any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to message Kevin or I through our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can also find Man Up Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well. We also have our website. Kev, what's our website?
www.themanuppod.com.
That's right. And also subscribe, download, comment, give us a review, 5 stars on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple, iTunes. For Kevin, Dr. Greg Budoff, and I, thanks for listening. Until next time, have a good one.